What's up, college baseball fans? Welcome to another episode of the 11.7 podcast. It is regional recap episode, and there is so much to talk about. There's so many different directions we can go. We're going to try to stay on path. We're going to try to stay organized, but this is a shoot from the hip episode. There might be things that jog memories from Friday afternoon. There might be something we're talking about Sunday night that we have to revert back to Saturday. I don't know. Very, very disorganized, but there's a lot of storylines. There's some teams that we need to keep an eye on. And then later this week, either tomorrow or Thursday, we will have our super regional preview. But sure, of course, we're going to talk about super regional matchups here on this episode too. Just bear with us, okay? So Jackson, D.C. right now. Dimitri, his name here on YouTube, Dimothy. I don't know how he got that, but crazy name. He's in Italy. I'm still over here in South Carolina, but we're going to make this work. All right, so first thing I want to talk about, who has a better chance to advance to the College World Series right now, top ahead, UConn or Evansville?
You want me to go ahead and start?
Yeah, go ahead and start. I think it's a clear answer.
It's UConn. But should we pick up the argument where we started right before we hit record today?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up first, because we were arguing about it. We were arguing about it before the pod, and we hit start, and we're just going to go. We're going to get right into it.
Let me say this about that.
Guys, no one is going to listen to me. No one's going to believe me, and I'm not going to sit here and try to justify why I think so. But I think Evansville has a better shot than UConn. It's not a knock on Tennessee. It's not a knock on UConn. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just what I think. And I could go in depth about it, but I'm not going to sit here and do that because nobody's going to listen.
No, I want you to go in depth about it because you did have like a thought out answer.
I mean,
don't shy away now.
I think Florida State pitching and hitting in that ballpark will dominate UConn. And I think UConn got good pieces. I just think Oklahoma didn't look great. I just don't think Oklahoma was very good this weekend. And sure, UConn got through that regional. I think Evansville's hungrier. I think Evansville has got more older, used to the atmosphere guy. I think Tennessee Knoxville is not going to faze them. And I think Evansville can handle it. I think they can pitch their way through it. Will it turn into a slugfest? Maybe, sure. But I think Evansville can keep up. I just don't think UConn can. I think Evansville has a better shot.
You really are the Skip Bayless of college baseball because that is the 100% opposite of what 99% of the public is thinking. I mean, listen, Tennessee is arguably a better pitching team and hitting team than Florida State.
And UConn, who's hungrier, UConn or Evansville? Who is hungrier?
Dude, I think they both are, man.
Both super regional. Who? Both in a super regional with 2 games away from Omaha.
Who is hungrier? Let's just say even.
I think they're equally as hungry.
Say they're even. Let's say they're even. Fine. UConn hitting or Evansville lineup?
Evansville.
Okay. UConn pitching. I'm assuming you're going to go UConn pitching over Evansville pitching?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so hungry, even. Hitting Evansville, pitching UConn. Fine. Bullpen.
Dude, you guys are missing the mark here.
Right? No. Wait. I'm gonna give you your pen to talk. When you have the pen in your hand, you can talk. Until then, you can't talk.
Okay.
All right.
Using reason.
I think Florida State is a more complete team
than Tennessee. Wait. All right. Look, that's when you're invalid.
There you go. You started the argument off.
I think Evansville would beat UConn in a 3-game super regional. There's my argument right there. I think Evansville is better than UConn.
Okay, well, that was never the conversation.
That was never the question.
Quite literally never the conversation. You started it off with, this has nothing to do with Tennessee or Florida State. When unfortunate reality is, it has everything to do with Tennessee and Florida State. Like, not only does the public, Vegas is going to have Evansville as plus 1 million dogs. And UConn's going to be dogs too, just not nearly the same rate. I'd like to start this off and say transparency. Shout out to my boy at Dog Pile season. I did not see this coming from UConn. I thought they had 0 shot of beating Duke or OU. They've gone an unbelievable run. It took you guys to inform me to say that this is going to be their second super in 3 years, third since 2012. I have slept all over the Huskies. I'm a recent memory guy when I
I'm
remember
keep
them getting
sleeping on them
formed
tomorrow.
by Northeastern, right? So UConn has surprised a lot of teams, but they've been doing this for quite some time. Evansville, the 4 seed, the mid-major darling, without question, everyone's going to be rooting for them. They're America's team. With that being said, if they beat Tennessee, this could be one of the biggest college baseball upsets in the history of the sport. Not even close.
Okay, now let me think. You're making too much sense. And what I mean by that is,
All
what I
right,
mean
dude, we
by
got
that
to
is, you're
move
making
on.
too much sense. Not one of us even thought Evansville had a fucking chance in that Greenville regional.
That's not true.
One of them chance.
That's
They
not
did.
true.
Kent
That's not
State,
true.
Kent State went into Kent State. And Stony Brook went into Baton Rouge and shocked the world. Like, you can't just sit here and make it the automatic guarantee that they have no shot. Literally, they went into Baton Rouge and beat them when not a single person on this planet Earth thought they had a shot. So why Notre Dame didn't have a shot either? So why did Evansville not have a shot? You can't sit here and say
no one said they didn't have a shot against Tennessee. The question was, who's got a better chance of getting to Omaha, Evansville or?
And I think Evansville would beat UConn in a 3-game series for Super Regional. I think Evansville would win.
All right.
Conversation
to make this come full circle, the reason why we're arguing about it and the reason why we bring this up first thing on the pod is because every 8 years, a non-Power 5 team wins the College World Series. It happened in 16, 2008, 94, whenever, or 92. And we're down to 2. We have UConn and Evansville, who I was looking at our preseason mid-major rankings, and they were like number 18 and number 20, respectfully. And like now we're down to 2. I would love to see one of those 2 teams win it all. I don't think they can do it, but that's the beauty of college baseball. I guess to agree with Dimitri partially is like nobody would have thought Coastal Carolina was going to win it in 16. Nobody thought Fresno State as a 4 seed in 2008 was going to win it. So maybe we do get a little Evansville magic. Maybe we do get UConn magic. Personally, right now, I think UConn is a much better team than Evansville, but Evansville is hot. Like Evansville swept through their conference tournament. They played really well in the regional. Remember, UConn lost both games in the Big East tournament at Prasco Park. Right. So this is like kind of a surprise to see them playing much better. In fact, UConn, the first like 13 games of their season, they were something like 3-10, and they lost 9 out of 10 between UC Santa Barbara, Auburn, and another Power 5 school. Like they were getting swept by those guys. Cal, that's what it was. They got swept by Cal, lost 2 out of 3 to Auburn, and got swept by UC Santa Barbara. So this is a team that maybe is a roller coaster up and down all year. But to say that Evansville has a better chance to beat Tennessee than UConn does Florida State is, I think, out of your mind. Like that is the biggest Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. Like, let's play the heel.
All right. So it's probably not going to happen. I'm not sitting here saying that I think Evansville's going to beat Tennessee. I just think they have a better shot. So what on next Monday or Tuesday, let's just hypothetically say Evansville wins that series. Do you come back here and say you're out of your damn mind for picking that? Or you say, holy shit, you're in nowhere a ball? When you see what I mean? You can't sit here and unequivocally, factually say.
I think right now you're betting green on the roulette table. Yeah. And like, of course, every once in a while it'll hit green, but you're not like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like when it happens, you're going to rub it in people's face. I get it, but the logic behind it makes no sense.
I'm not saying that I think Evansville is going to beat Tennessee. I think they just have a better shot. I think they're going to be a better showing than UConn. I think this Florida State team is a top 3 team in the country right now. And I've been saying it for a while. I think they were a top 10 team in the country.
Right.
So,
okay. Well, let's get back on track here. Let's start with the East Carolina Regional. Let's recap it there. Everybody in their mind and their moms thought Wake Forest was going to roll through this regional and face against Tennessee in a super regional where you get the Chase Burns. I mean, that was the whole social media platform. Was like Chase Burns versus Tennessee super. That's what we want. Wake Forest goes 0-2. They get shut out by VCU game 1, and they lose 1-0, which, like, we were very guilty of saying Wake Forest might score 15 runs a game with the small ballpark, put up protective nets behind the outfield when Nick Kurtz and those guys are hitting. And they had a terrible, terrible showing. The East Carolina Pirates, too. almost, in my opinion, was more embarrassing to lose twice at home, and they did beat Wake Forest, right? I mean, obviously they have the curse right now where they can't get to Omaha. Really, really good program. One of the best and most consistent programs in college baseball over the last decade. But to lose twice to an Evansville team, a 4 seed, especially on Monday, it's like, man, do things need to change, or is Evansville just like the team of destiny right now?
I think you can make very good arguments on both sides of the table here. I think East Carolina is a good team, but I didn't think they were a great team. I thought Wake Forest had this regional in the bag, and they did. After Evansville upset UConn game, East Carolina game one, it was literally handed them on a silver platter. This is your regional to take and run with it. And Christian Gordon said, fuck no, and shoved it up their ass for 8 innings, 12, 13 strikeouts. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh my God, it's Evansville of ECU regional to lose.
Yeah.
And yep, I mean, I think East Carolina, I think if you get to a Monday game at home in front of a sold out crowd, you can't keep losing it. I mean, they had a shot. They had it against Texas in that super regional. They had game one, they lost the next two. And when the pressure gets to East Carolina to really take care of it, it seems they always fall short.
Right. And it's sad, but at the same time, you got to be happy for the Purple Aces. They kind of stole America's heart. I'll tell you this. Evansville is a program that we did a lot of research preseason about. And let me just read what we wrote in the preseason mid-major poll, because it's kind of spot on. I'll read this quote as a quick little paragraph. It says, as far as mid-major baseball goes, this might be the darkest of dark horses for 2024. There's a lot to like about the Purple Aces squad. You look at the roster and it's fifth-year senior, followed by sixth-year senior, followed by JUCO stud. This team is old and salty as hell. They returned their top two arms from last year and practically their whole starting lineup. This is the type of team you don't want to play early in the year because team chemistry is already at an all-time high, and the older guys have been taking intro to cooking online classes since August, just waiting to start baseball season. They open up with Oral Roberts, which should be a fun one to watch. And, dude, that's what it was, man. Like, this is a team that was an older team, very, very experienced, not postseason experienced, because this is their first regional since 2006. But the amount of games this team has played together is incredible. It reminds me a lot of the Oral Roberts team last year. Way too good to be a 4 seed. It's just kind of how the RPI worked out, where they had to be a 4 seed. Look, I will be personally rooting for Evansville in this Tennessee Super Regional. I just think there's no shot that they can win twice. Maybe once. Maybe they put it together and they win once, but to beat them twice in a weekend, I mean, that seems like an impossible task.
I'll say this much, man. To get Burns and Savage in that Saturday morning elimination game was like objectively super hilarious. And then even when ECU kind of catches fire, you think even then they were going to get him. But, I think we're in a position now where like seeing all the 2 seeds across the country lose, like we have no choice but to root for Evansville and UConn like crazy, right? Like Kansas State and West Virginia are really awesome stories. But if we've been standing on business all year with these mid-majors and parity in the sport, like we need them to take care of business. So maybe there is a little bit of magic in that clubhouse. And as you two guys had called preseason, that's a hell of a lock, man. Dark horse of the dark horse.
Right. And one more thing I want to add about this Greenville regional. Who said last week this feels like the Auburn 2023 regional all over again? I said that. I said, look, I could see a case. I made a case and I presented facts on how VCU could beat Wake Forest if they did not start Chase Burns. And it followed to a T. And I said, it would not surprise me to see number 1 versus number 2 in the elimination game Saturday and have this thing. And now I did project East Carolina to win the regional. It didn't work out that way, but it felt like 4 teams that game 1 were pretty evenly matched.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun regional, super fun all around.
Yep. All right, let's move to the Knoxville regional. It matches up as we've hinted at 100 times already, but dude, other than Indiana just steamrolling Southern Miss game 1, it kind of played out exactly how everybody thought it would, right? Southern Miss made a nice little run in the losers bracket, but was just out of gas and nobody left to pitch. Tennessee stomped them to win the regional. And like I know there's this curse. Number one overall seeds haven't won the whole College World Series since 1999. I think we're getting pretty close with this team. Like it would be surprising to see them lose twice.
Guys, I'm not saying it's easy to take the easy narrative. It's easy to do this. Nobody thought, even we didn't think Tennessee had a shot of losing twice 3 years ago. Notre Dame rolled in there and shocked the world. I mean, that was truly one of a shock the world moment. And I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible because I think Tennessee should win the Super Regional. And you saw in that regional, it wasn't even close. Southern Miss wasn't even close. Indiana wasn't even close. It was just not even close. So, I mean, I'm not expecting Tennessee to lose anytime soon. I think they can make it all the way to the College World Series final. But be careful saying there's no shot.
Yeah, I'll say this, man. One of the guys that I've been really like keen on, and obviously that offense is so dang good. Kavaris Tears and Christian Moore continue to like lead it alongside a whole lot of cast and crew in that lineup. A name that's starting to become like a folklore legend up there is AJ Causey. He was a submarine guy from Jacksonville State a year ago, and he throws wiffle balls, and no one is hitting him. No one in the SEC did. No one in postseason play has. And he had another really huge weekend. And you pair that with guys like Beam and Sechrist and Kirby Connell, and then all of a sudden, like a guy like obviously front end dudes go down for them, and like you're not even that concerned anymore because guys like Causey have stepped up. And I think that's where I think Tim Corbin said it last week during Hoover was, and these teams are so deep, they have depth in their depth. So Tennessee's starting to flex that a little bit, and I think that's what makes them so scary.
Right. All right, let's move to the Norman Regional. We saw the final of that yesterday, late last night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, Oklahoma versus UConn, winner take all. And look, I want you guys to defend your Duke picks there because Duke laid an egg. That might have been the worst baseball we've seen Duke play all year. And maybe it is a coincidence, but was there something behind the Duke pick that like made you guys want to pick them other than the ACC tournament?
Ben, don't play this bullshit card here. What made you guys want to pick Duke?
I'm just trying to deflect because I picked
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
That bullshit because you fucking picked Oklahoma. You were wrong too. What made you want to pick Oklahoma? Listen, Duke coming into this regional on paper was the best team. I mean, the Oklahoma I saw last night was probably one of the most uninterested, low energy teams I've ever seen all year. They looked so uninterested last night in a winner-take-all game. And so, but going back to the Duke pick, I'm not mad about it. I mean, they just sucked ass. They're not typically a bad postseason team. They played really well a year ago in Conway in the Coastal Regional. They faced adversity in that regional. I think losing to Coastal and going to a winner-take-all game, I believe. Did that regional go to a winner-take-all last year?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So they faced a little bit of adversity and handled it. They walked into Norman. I mean, you lose to UConn game one, fine, you get punched in the mouth. They're still deep enough and they're talented enough to come all the way back. Beat Oral Roberts, no problem. Hey, you got Oklahoma right in front of you. You beat them. You go get UConn, revenge. 3-game series on the weekend. But they just didn't look very good. They couldn't hit. Their offense was terrible. So yeah, that is what it is.
Jack, anything you want to say about Duke or Oklahoma before we focus on UConn?
Yeah, UConn was a sleeper, right? Like Corey Morton was awesome for them. He was the most outstanding player in that regional. But when it comes to Duke, like I still like think they had just all the perfect pieces, right? They cap it off with an ACC championship bid. The senior vets in Bravo and Ben Miller were fantastic. Zach Morris was great in this weekend set. They had all the pitching and the depth to like, even when they lose game one, when you're throwing a buzzsaw where anybody can beat anybody with their Friday arm on the mound. I still felt as confident down 0-1 than I did if they'd have been 1-0. So, man, a dagger if you're them. But renovations coming to the Jack this summer for Duke. Chris Pollard is about to become the all-time winningest coach in the program's history. Like, I still feel really great about the future of this program. But to me, again, hand up. I slept all over the Huskies. Didn't think they deserved to get in. And, man, they continue to shock the hell out of the world by performing really well this time of year.
Listen, yeah, like UConn to me, they played the perfect style of baseball for that Norman region, a regional. Sorry, it wasn't the most intense fan atmosphere. There was great crowds there, and people were interested in baseball in Norman. But UConn played a style of baseball where they threw strikes on the mound. They trusted their starters. There was not 8 different pitching changes like we saw in a bunch of other regionals. They let their starters get out of jams. They let their starters, pitch deep into games. And the defense was something I have never seen before in college baseball. They played errorless baseball until the ninth inning of the last game, and like some of the plays that they were making, dude, they were robbing doubles in the gap. Shortstops were making catches over their head, like in the left field grass. It was really really fun to watch that style of baseball, and they didn't rely upon the home run necessarily, but every home run that they hit was a 2-run or a 3-run shot, like kind of a dagger. And dude, that baseball plays. I say this all the time on the pod, and people probably get upset with me for making this reference. But the way they played in the Norman Regional reminded me a lot of the 2019 Michigan team. The Eric Backage, hey, we're not more talented than these guys, but we're going to play great baseball, fundamentally sound, and we're going to have a quiet confidence about us. That's what I got out of UConn, and like that's why I think UConn could go into Tallahassee and play good enough baseball to beat Florida State and go to Omaha. That's my opinion.
Hey, by the way, great reference on the Michigan. They throw strikes and play defense. That's literally all they do, and they give team zero chance to get momentum. The only way Oklahoma was going to beat UConn was to put together 2, 3, 4, 5 hits in an inning to score. Because you weren't going to get your error, and you weren't going to get many base on balls. You weren't going to get your free pass. And their fan, that Oklahoma crowd, they kept trying. They kept trying to pump them up. And to me, they looked so uninterested. They looked so uninterested in playing. They had no energy. And maybe that's just because UConn didn't give them any confidence, any like hope. They just like, damn it, dude, line drive right at third base, caught. Ground ball up the middle, caught. Little pop fly blooper, maybe we'll catch a break here. And guy makes a great diving catch in center field. It was almost like, dude, when are we going to catch a break? And they just never got one. So
yeah,
at the UConn, tip my cap to everything to UConn. But I think Duke, at the end of the day, was the biggest failure. And I'm not mad about my pick. I'm not like, why did I pick them?
All right, we'll move to the Fayetteville Regional, where this was like the first time there was like actual shock on my face. It happened Saturday night.
Did you skip Tallahassee?
Oh, did I skip? Oh, my bad. Tallahassee Regional. Look, Alabama laid an egg, 0-2. They lose a tough one. Like that. Alabama versus UCF game 1. I believe there was a rain delay for a couple hours. It finished 8-7 or maybe 7-6. And it looked like Alabama, if they win that game, have some momentum up against Jamie Arnold game 2. They lose the game, and then Stetson beats them, eliminates them from the tournament. And it's like, dang, dude, like that's the first SEC team we've seen like lay an egg this year, right? Not play good baseball. Stetson showed me a lot. The ASUN can hang. Like they had pitching depth, and it didn't matter which one of those 4 teams from the ASUN. I felt pretty good about if Austin P would have made the regional, or Kennesaw, or Jacksonville. All 4 of those teams battled it out all year. I was impressed with Stetson. Definitely, probably a 3 seed that ended up the 4 seed as well, just because of RPI. But talent wise,
more of a 3 seed.
Yeah, but man, this regional was all about the cinnamon rolls. The Florida State cinnamon rolls, dominant fashion. Played their best baseball all year. Look, they're going to be tough to beat. They're similar to Tennessee. They're going to be tough to beat twice. Now they are battling a few injuries, especially with Cam Leiter and those guys. But it was impressive to me that teams would have to choose whether they're going to pitch to Tibbs or Cam Smith. And Cam Smith made everybody pay.
Or
like big game player. Yeah, and right, exactly. Like 3 guys in the middle of the order that are deadly. And Cam Smith was, in my opinion, the MVP of that regional. Every big moment he won. Like he is a big time player that loves the big moment. So Florida State, I have them in the national championship game in my bracket. It's pretty much the only thing that I have left. Well, I guess I have Kentucky beating them in the College World Series, but yeah, I'm a big fan of what Link Jarrett has built over there in Tallahassee.
I don't have much else to say. I think you nailed it pretty much all the way through. I think this was a great state of Florida regional. I think it was awesome. You got your mid-major tier. You've got your UCF, who's now a Power Five, but they're not quite as big of a program as Florida, Florida State, and Miami. But they're on their way. I think they're very close to becoming a year in and year out postseason team. So I thought it was a great regional. I think Alabama just got the short end of the stick. They lost a heartbreaker. You got to turn around quickly and play the next game. It's really easy to be down and just get knocked out quick.
Yeah.
Guys, don't forget, all year Florida State had one big problem, and that was bullpen. Their bullpen was atrocious in their big series against Clemson. A couple other ones I can't remember off the top. I mean, their bullpen never showed up. Their leads were big enough this weekend where the bullpen didn't have too much pressure on them, but that's my only concern going forward into the Super into Omaha is their bullpen, and UConn can give them trouble.
Yeah, it felt like going into this regional. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought this was the easiest regional for a 1 seed, and they took care of business. Alabama was really underwhelming in Hoover as well. They continue to be so. The conversation about UCF hanging in the Big 12 is answered. Yeah, that's a really good ball club, but to me, this was Tallahassee at its finest, and I thought it was the easiest regional by far in the field of 64.
All right, now we can talk about Fayetteville.
Yeah.
And look, I know Friday's games were awesome. There was a lot of surprises, big upsets. But for me, the moment that I referenced earlier that my jaw dropped was Saturday night in the Fayetteville Regional when Kansas State put up a 5 spot against Hagen Smith and just took control of not only that game, but the whole regional. I want to give Kansas State their props. They went into that game, that winner's bracket game against Hagen Smith, with a plan. Hagen Smith had plenty of strikeouts. Like, he was getting guys to strike out, but they were tough at bats. They weren't the 3 or 4 pitch strikeouts that we're used to seeing. And dude, I saw a crazy stat about Hagen Smith. The first inning of the year against James Madison and the last inning of the year against Kansas State, he gave up 9 runs. In the 81 innings between those two, he gave up 10 runs.
It's crazy.
It was a wild stat. But Kansas State, I mean, they're a team that came into the tournament. Everybody was hating on them because they had a member on the selection committee. They were a bubble team. There were cases to be made against them not getting in. And dude, they just said, all right, screw it. We have nothing to lose. Let's go out here. Let's have some fun. And by 3 p.m. on Sunday, the Fayetteville Regional was dead. Arkansas loses to SEMO, who played really well this weekend. I was impressed with SEMO. They lose to SEMO. And dude, I think that last game had maybe 500 people in the stands. Just empty house. Look, there's 2 things I want to focus on. One, Louisiana Tech really laid an egg. I was disappointed in them because I was disappointed because I saw them play good baseball all year. There was that Dallas Baptist weekend series where I started believing really, really hard in that La Tech. Thought they deserved a 2 seed. And dude, they played their worst baseball this weekend, and that sucks because I think they could have made that interesting, or that regional, more interesting. The other storyline here, Kansas State. Look, I know they're a 3 seed, but they're preseason ranked in the top 25. They got Tyson Neighbors, who's going to go in the first round. They got Kalen Culpepper, who is really becoming a star, like right in front of our eyes, our eyes. And dude, he's a guy that I think is going to end up making a lot of money with a signing bonus just based off the postseason. Similar to Cade Horton from Oklahoma a couple of years ago. If this Kansas State team makes a deep run, Kalen Culpepper is going to climb up those draft boards because he's a freak. He's a freak athlete, and if he can do that against a 3-run homer against Hagen Smith, there's going to be a team that believes in him. So those are kind of my takeaways quickly. But I was impressed with SEMO. SEMO was a fun team. They hung it, like even that Friday game against Arkansas. They made it real interesting through the first 5 or 6 innings.
Hey, when we were doing Club Bromaha, I was rooting so hard for SEMO, and I had a lot of fun doing it. They gave us hope that they had a shot to win this game. I never really thought they would actually do it. They were down 8-0. They came all the way back, made it 8-8, and they just kept punch for punch. Every time Arkansas punched, SEMO punched right back. And I think that was a really good first game for them. It gave them like, oh, hey, we belong here. We can compete with these guys. And yeah, I was really impressed with them. I think Arkansas, it's just the narrative continues. You got to get out of your own home regionals and your home supers. I mean, they had their shot in the national championship in Omaha, but other than that, Dave Van Horn's got to find a way. He's got to get back to the drawing board and figure out how to get this team ready for the postseason. I think that's what it comes down to. I think you can't keep saying we keep running into good teams. Everybody's good, and the field of 64 is full of good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other teams continue to find a way to get to Omaha Super. I mean, Sully going is 10 Super. We'll get to that later, but like you got to find a way with your good roster, your bad roster, whatever it is. So with all that being said, super proud of SEMO. I was rocking the hat all weekend. Kansas State, congrats to them. I think this is at the end of the day, this regional comes down to Arkansas. Just needs to figure it out.
Yeah. I had 3 quick things. I did take La Tech, but I'm giving myself on a pat on the back for being the only person in the country to not take Arkansas getting out of the regional. So that feels like somewhat of a win in a weird way. Secondly, I even thought SEMO set the tone on that Friday, like to your point, Dimitri, where they made Arkansas look vulnerable. And then all of a sudden they get them the very next day in an elimination game. Kalen Culpepper and Tyson Neighbors made themselves a lot of money on Saturday. I know, Ben, you touched on it a little bit. The Culpepper homer, we saw him do that all last summer for Team USA. And Neighbors, who started off this year on the IL, and I know Blind Man Nate and I went back and forth. But to me, it's like when we look at a Wake Forest team that goes 2 in a queue, and they're going to have 3 top 15 picks, you expect those 3 top 15 picks in the first round of the MLB draft to win you games.
Yeah.
Kansas State's got 2 top 15 picks that are winning them games in the postseason. And guess what? They're making themselves a whole lot of money. And they're 2 kind of dudes, especially when Neighbors that Saturday night coming out of the pen and getting himself a 6-out save. Like, that's a bad man that is making himself a whole lot of money at the right time. So, man, I wouldn't sleep on him just because those 2 guys are good enough to go win games by themselves.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one thing. Tyson Neighbors Saturday night, that was one of those moments where you feel the emotion, you feel the energy from the game as it emanates from him. You feel like you're receiving it. Like when he threw that heater and just let everything out, said, "This is my fucking house now. I own. Like this is mine." I was like, "Dude, I love this guy. This guy has the balls of steel." Because a lot of guys in the country throw 95 plus. A lot of guys have the arm talent. They have the spin. They have everything you need. A lot of them, you know what they don't have? They don't have that confidence to say, "Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Come take it. I'm going to throw you a heater. Beat me right now. You can't do it." And I think Neighbors has that factor. He has that factor where he's going to make you beat him. And he's going to challenge you and let you do it. I think that's a weapon to have in the postseason.
Right. Yeah, last thing I want to say about this regional, to all the Arkansas fans, like maybe they're casuals or maybe they're diehards, but on social media, like the last thing you need to be doing is calling for Dave Van Horn's job. He has built a program that is on autopilot right now. It does not, like, it sucks you guys lost a regional. It sucks you guys haven't never won a College World Series. It's hard to do. But the best thing you can ask for is a program where you reload every year and you have the support and like you have the stadium, you have the facilities to give yourself a shot every single year. There are teams like Kansas State would beg to have that. Like this might be their best team that Kansas State's had in a very long time. They got 2 first-round picks. Like they have to win this year because next year is not guaranteed. Arkansas will forever be in the NCAA baseball tournament with a chance to win it all, and it's because of Dave Van Horn. That's my thought. Like,
when is the last time Arkansas did not host?
They were a 2 seed. Weren't they a 2 seed like recently? 2022, maybe?
No, I mean, no.
I thought that they won a regional as a 2 seed, like Oklahoma State. Did they go to Oklahoma State and win a regional in 2022?
Yes, yeah, they did. And then when they went to Chapel Hill, Super.
Yeah.
And they won that Chapel Hill Super.
Yeah. So like maybe they don't host every year, but they're going to be in like even the year they didn't host, they went to the College World Series. And that's all you can ask for as a college baseball fan is like, this is on autopilot. Next year, we're going to be preseason ranked top 15. And like, we're going to have a chance to make it to Omaha.
Here's what I would say for a program like Arkansas, fans calling for Van Horn's job. Maybe Van Horn's not the problem. He is the last thing that you go after. Maybe it's the assistant. Maybe it's positional coaches. Maybe it's your pitching coach or hitting coach. Fine, there's another area that could maybe be addressed. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying just look deeper. Maybe the problem is somewhere else. It's not
when
Van
it's
Horn.
all said and done. Like, I know he did not win a national championship, but he won a national championship in 2018.
I know, dude.
Like, that is out of his control that a foul ball was dropped. Like, he did everything right, and it just whatever. It didn't happen. We would not be having this conversation if they caught that foul ball in 2018. But anyways, let's move on here. Charlottesville Regional, I thought was really, really fun, really entertaining. Started Friday. Mississippi State and St. John's played a classic. There was a point where St. John's robbed a walk-off home run, like legitimately reached over the fence and robbed a home run. Mississippi State wins that game in extras. Dakota Jordan was on fire. He hits a walk-off homer game one. And then even I guess that was technically game two. But Penn played really well Friday against Virginia. Virginia comes in the best hitting team in the ACC. Penn comes in as like the 4 seed out of the Ivy League tournament. And they held it close. And I'm like, okay. Dude, this regional might be wide open. Turns out Virginia just turns on the gas. They win the regional. Other than the 9th inning of the championship game, it was pretty close between Mississippi State and Virginia, but Virginia's bats finally heated up. And I think they're a dangerous team. It's going to be fun watching them play Kansas State in the Super, but this Virginia team's a real deal.
It's funny. I think you said it. To kick off this regional, it was wide open. Mm-hmm. But by the time we got to early Saturday or late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, I was sitting there thinking, how did I not pick Virginia? But Friday, watching Virginia against Penn, I was like, oh my God, St. John's had a shot. I really like St. John to have a shot. By Saturday, you're like, dude, what was I thinking? It was always Virginia. But I will say this. Do I like my pick of St. John? No, but I also wanted to have fun with this pick. I wanted to really dig deep and have fun with it. If I was gambling, of course, I would have put my money on Mississippi State or Virginia, probably Virginia. But St. John did look good. It's not like they looked horrible and it was just an awful pick. They win that game against Mississippi State. Who knows what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what happened?
St. John's number 2 pitched against Penn in that elimination game and shoved. Like, he could have done the same against Virginia. You just never know. That was a fun extra game, St. John's Mississippi State game 1. But yeah, Virginia just had the depth and they had the home field advantage and the clutch hitting.
Shout out Jay Woolfolk. That guy absolutely stymied
Roy
Mississippi State on Sunday. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was watching that championship game was like Mississippi State had no shot.
It was one. I think he had a 1-run lead, but it felt like a 4 or 5 run lead. He was just up there peppering strike. He made one mistake to Dakota Jordan, who was red hot. But other than that, it's 110 pitches, 8 innings. Golly, that's nice to have out of your number 3.
That was one of the 3 things that really stood out to me. Is guys, he didn't do that this year. They tried to make him a starter. They had to move him to the pen, and he had to work through some things. As a kid that was a Team USA talent, and if the name sounds familiar and you're just tuning into college baseball, like a lot of casuals, it was QB1, right? This is an insane athlete. So for them to get an outing like that out of Woolfolk is huge. Evan Blanco's been great, the southpaw for them. The other 2 things that stood out to me this regional, Penn gave them a run for their money on Friday, right? Hypothetical investors, the over was the play there because both of those offenses are loaded, yet the arms really showed up. A bummer for Mississippi State fans because I think just the Virginia staff that had struggled this year really woke up and kind of shut them down because I think State was a team that had the caliber to go win in Omaha. Your Johnnies look good, Dimitri. And then the other thing that really stood out to me was I forget every year that they have bleachers in the outfield. And I don't know when it hits me and realize that they don't. But that robbed home run, it was like a Twilight Zone. I was like, when the hell did they have bleachers out there? So those are my 3 things.
Oh, really? You forgot about their left field bleachers? They're always scattered. They're always scattered during the weekend, during the regular season. But I'm telling you guys, I think one of the most underrated atmospheres in college baseball is Charlottesville. I think Virginia, they had a great crowd. I mean, it was pouring down rain against Mississippi State on Sunday, and they were still standing up, still loud, still full. I really do think Virginia had the very, very underrated atmosphere.
And Jack said it best. Jack said it best last week. Virginia is one of those programs where you blink and it's like, oh, they're in another super regional, or like, oh, they're in Omaha again. Yep. It's a program on autopilot
every year.
Every year. What is O'Connor, by the way? Tip the cap to him. He's in the Dave Van Horn tier, but he has his national championship autopilot program. We're going to be here every year, down year, up year, whatever. There's no such thing as rebuilding some of these programs. But can you get Davenport Field? That's what I was trying to remember the name of the field. Super underrated place. I would like to go watch a ball game there.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate it again. I say it all the time, but college baseball parks with outfield bleachers looked 100 times better. And it just better. If you're a college baseball program and you just throw some bleachers up in the outfield, it looks amazing. Like it just makes the whole ballpark feel amazing. So
even if it's not like some big league park with 3 decks and upper deck, if you have a single bowl around, somewhere dugout to dugout or something.
Like Clemson, Virginia, Mississippi State, Arkansas.
Okay. I'm not talking about these big ass programs. I'm talking even like in Oklahoma. They have dugout to dugout, single bowl, single level, and then you put some outfield bleachers. It changes everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Move on.
Yeah. Let's move on. We got Tucson Regional, which Dimitri misspelled on the graphic. TUCSON.
From my whole life, I thought it was spelled like this until someone actually pointed it out to me.
Yeah. Tuscan.
I call it Tucson now. It's Tucson.
But look, I picked Dallas Baptist. Jack picked Dallas Baptist. Dimitri did pick West Virginia, who won the regional. And, dude, they won it with ease, right? Like, even Friday's win against Dallas Baptist, I forget his first name, Clark, the lefty. Nate Clark, maybe? No, I don't know. That Nate Clark is blind man Nate. Golly, why can't I remember his first name? But the lefty, he absolutely diced up Dallas Baptist. They win a 4-1 game. It took like an hour long. And at that point, you're like, okay, like West Virginia's here. Randy Mazey's last year. He is somebody that built this West Virginia program to what it is now. And
who were you trying to think of?
I think his last name's Clark, the lefty.
No, they're
maybe Carter. No.
They're Grant Hussey, Kyle West, Ben London, Skylar King, Spencer Barnett, Brody Kresser.
What are you reading on?
Reed Chumley and Sam White. I'm reading West Virginia lineup.
No, it's their starting pitcher from Friday.
Yeah. Okay, Clark is the pitcher.
Derek Clark. There we go. But yeah, he was nasty. And like this is a Dallas Baptist offense that was really, really good all year. The second game, the night game, it really felt like a toss-up. Like, look, I know Arizona was gifted a regional because they won the Pac-12 regular season. They won the Pac-12 tournament. The RPI was nowhere close to a host material, but the NCAA committee, I thought, did the right thing and said, look, maybe the RPI is a little skewed. You guys won regular season. You won the conference tournament. You guys can host. But Grand Canyon, they're exactly like what Oral Roberts last year or Evansville this year. They were not a 4 seed, and this is a place they are very comfortable playing. In fact, they beat Arizona in a midweek 24-8 earlier this year at that field. So that was one that nobody was like surprised when it happened, when Grand Canyon ended up winning the game. And when that happened, it was like, all right, West Virginia is probably going to win this regional. And look, Dallas Baptist, they lose to Grand Canyon, and like Arizona loses to Dallas Baptist. Grand Canyon was in the regional final with West Virginia, and I remember texting my brother. Or maybe it might have been the 11.7 group message, and I was like, I don't know how Grand Canyon's going to get it, like have enough pitchers to get 27 outs, because it was the third inning. They were on their fourth pitcher, and these guys were throwing 85 miles an hour. They were just out of gas. West Virginia looked really good, but maybe not the toughest regional. I don't think Dallas Baptist, Arizona, or Grand Canyon had the depth, but
I think this regional showed you that it was a very tough regional, because in a regional that is tough, usually means the 1 seed can have a really hard time getting through it. And your 4 seed is not really a 4 seed. West Virginia could have easily have been a 2 seed. Dallas Baptist was really close to being a host. Like, this was a tough regional. The way it played out may not seem tough, but it was tough.
Yeah, there was just no like SEC or ACC depth in it, right? Like even like Dallas Baptist, most weekend series they look great, but they're not used to playing 4 or 5 games. They don't have the depth for it. Same with Arizona. Same with Grand Canyon. If you threw in a Florida, or if you or if you threw in, I don't know, like a Duke or somebody in there that had depth, this could have been very competitive.
I think a Big 12 team does have depth. I think.
Well, they didn't, but that's the thing. West Virginia didn't need the depth. They played 3 games and
But I
swept
think
through it.
I think they had the depth.
Sure, yeah. If they lose to Dallas Baptist game 1, like they probably have the depth to get through the losers bracket and make it interesting. But when it was Grand Canyon in the regional final, they didn't have enough pitching to get outs, man.
There was, I think, what was really stood out about this one is, to your point about that, there was no SEC or ACC team that came in that really scared the hell out of you. West Virginia, when healthy this year, was really good. DBU, hot, cold, hot theory remained cold, and Arizona really took on and burst on the scene late with a really fun mid-major in Grand Canyon. But this weekend was a one-horse race, and what's really scary about this West Virginia team is that Weatherholt didn't even play all that well, right? Derek Clark was unbelievable. Reed Chumley for him was awesome. The Logan Sauve kid, like I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of him before this weekend. It was awesome. And Ben, I look at the graphic and you're just like, dang, like we were all over this West Virginia storyline weeks ago. And we still didn't take him because the heart lies with the mid-major and DBU, hoping that Ryan Johnson would take care of that first game, thinking that deep, we really thought Grand Canyon would beat Zona, but man, West Virginia played really good baseball. First super regional in program's history, and Randy Mazey's last year. I know that one tweet that's going viral actually with a Charleston sports reporter that was all over it, but Mazey, who they didn't have literally enough seats on the private charter home. So the boys flew back together. The coaches and support staff all flew back on a freaking commercial flight together. He gets stuck in an Atlanta layover, and the boys already made it back to Morgantown. Like, this is what the sport's all about. Like, this is college baseball in a nutshell. And like, again, this was a storyline that we sought out about 2-3 weeks ago. We still didn't take it. We're reaping the repercussions of it. And I'm really excited to see them go to Chapel Hill this weekend.
Yeah, look, we were all over this West Virginia team a month ago. We were like, if there is a Big 12 team that can come out of nowhere and make a TCU or an Oklahoma run from the last couple of years, we think it's this West Virginia team. We were just buying way too high on Dallas Baptist. That's all.
Hey, I will say one thing. Can we all agree and say the RPI knows what it knows more than us? The RPI knows more than us. Arizona was a good team, Pac-12 winner, all that yada yada. RPI wasn't that great. The RPI knows more than us about how good.
You can make the same argument for East Carolina too. Another team that was not in the RPI like hosting consideration, and they get a host. Maybe. But then you also have like counterpoints for some of these 3 seeds like Kansas State that made a run, or Oregon, or teams that didn't have RPIs good enough for at-large bids that played well.
What if we took it a step further and say teams in the Southeast? If your RPI is not super high in the Southeast, like East Coast, where you have access to all these teams, all these midweek, all these like you know what I'm trying to say, like the Southeast, like
right.
Texas all the way to Georgia up to maybe Virginia. If you're not in the area with Florida, if you're not in that area and you don't have a super high RPI, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
So it's just something to consider.
Let's move to Chapel Hill, man. This is from start to finish, one of the most electric regionals in my opinion, because not only, so it was North Carolina, LSU, Wofford, and Long Island, and everybody did the exact same thing. Like, oh, this is going to come down to LSU and North Carolina. And that's what it did. It did happen like that. And there was a winner-take-all game yesterday. It was very entertaining, a lot of star power. But between those lines, Wofford.
How we got there.
Yeah, how we got there was not what anybody was expecting. The way Wofford controlled the game for 7-8 innings against LSU game 1. And, Milam hits the walk-off homer. It gives LSU some it gives them some very confidence, right? Like they're thinking, okay, if we win this regional, we can host a super in Alex Box Stadium. Like it's open, right? But Wofford played really well game one for 7-8 innings. They didn't have the depth to hold on. LSU hit like 3 solo homers in the last 3 innings to win it. But then on top of that, North Carolina was, I mean, down to their last 3 outs, down by 3 runs to a Long Island team that, I mean, other than Jack, I mean, nobody was even mentioning. And if they lose that game, LSU probably runs this regional. Like, we were so close to having a Wofford Long Island winners bracket game, which would have really shaken things up, but we didn't. And Vance Honeycutt from North Carolina played out of his mind game 2. You got to see North Carolina showcase players that maybe a lot of the country hadn't heard about. Some freshmen that stepped up. Gallagher hit that walk-off grand slam against Gallagher. Hits a walk-off grand slam against Long Island, which was really, really fun. The atmosphere there in Chapel Hill was great, but Jack was there, flops on the ground. So what are your thoughts about that regional?
Dude, we were just literally 1 pitch away on Friday from getting an LSU and North Carolina elimination game at noon. Dude, it was so damn close. Like, I know that I've raved a lot about LSU, and I'm going to, but Wofford and JJ Edwards, man, with the fastest
pitching coach JJ Edwards.
He's coming for your throat, brother. He's coming for your throat, brother. If someone said they didn't see it coming, I would tell you BS, man. We shouted this one out last week, man. He's building something special. You're building a mid-major with a Wofford program, with a private school, with 1,400 kids on campus that really, really care about that W. And it was really cool to see him like rep it really proudly this weekend. And not only do it on Friday, but then to beat a really good LIU team on Saturday, and then do it again Sunday in the elimination. Like, they were right there again to beat an LSU.
Jumped out to a 5-0 lead
in the first inning. So you're like, man, so much to be proud of. There's no moral victories, but I got to brag on my LIU guys a little bit. Friday night, they had them, right? You just run out of a little bit of back-end help. J.C. Navarro, a junior college kid from Arizona Western that comes all the way across the country for LIU, with that big double down the line, down to their last pitch, like, was so electric before they hit that big homer. Like, how could you not fall in love with the Sharks? My guy, Jack Van Dorn, Jack, who for many don't know, like, fell in love with this team earlier this year, picked them blindly, then started to follow them. They rocked the spinny hat in the dugout, which like literally brought a tear to my eye. Garrett Yawn, another reliever for them, who bought the spinny hat. Like, that's the beauty in college baseball, is that like LIU had a blue blood on the ropes, had him beat. No one will ever be able to take it away from them. I know they don't walk away with a win, but then it does set up to Sunday night where I was able to take in LSU and North Carolina. I know someone was on me because you can't be a blue blood without winning a national championship, which I think there is a lot of truth in that. But there's also truth in the fact that when you close your eyes and think of college baseball, you think of North Carolina. And that Sunday night game was so damn good. LSU forces the winner take all yesterday. And then that game so fitting to what we saw the whole weekend, right? Huge moments from a guy like Will Helmers throwing submarine, hadn't thrown that many innings in literally 4 years. He was fantastic out of the pen for LSU. North Carolina, again, down to their last out, find a way to tie it up, force it to extras. And man, they've just been so good at home that you knew it was going to be almost impossible to beat them twice. LSU had them on the ropes, but they earned the hell out of advancing to a super. And to me, it was the most exciting super all weekend. It was bonkers, man.
Yeah, it was an edge of your seat at all times, regional. Yeah. At all times, I felt myself on the edge of my seat. This was like one of the only regionals where I would switch away from ESPN Squeeze Play with Rooney. Like, I was hooked on Squeeze Play all weekend, but I wanted to be ahead. Like, sometimes they would chime in 3 pitches too late. Like, I wanted to watch the LSU and UNC games like live on streaming. So, Thatcher Hurd pitched his tail off once again, true postseason pitcher. But yeah, congrats to North Carolina. They get to host a super regional against another like almost team of destiny with Randy Mazey retiring in West Virginia. And dude, like you're going to be looking around one day 5 years from now and be like, wow, do you remember when JJ Weatherholt played in a super regional against Vance Honeycutt? 2 of the most athletic kids in this year's draft. They've seen their draft stocks fluctuate over the last 12 months, Both guys have been listed number 1 prospects over the last 12 months, and they've fallen over the last 12 months. But like right now, we get 2 guys that I think are bona fide MLB stars facing off in a super regional, which will be a treat.
Let me say 3 more quick things before we move on to the Marshall Tool of Wofford. I wanted to tell this to Coach Edwards. He's the fastest guy alive. He's the fastest guy in the country. He led the country in stolen base this year. He's going to be a guy that has like an 8 or 9 year MLB career because he'll be just like a pinch runner at that level forever. The second being Kevin Gallagher of North Carolina over at third base stole legitimately 6 hits from Tommy White all weekend. His defense does not – LSU wins almost by 3 or 4 runs if he doesn't make the plays he did at the hot corner. That is a legit rising star hitting in the 7 hole. He was the one that hit the walk-off homer on Friday night against LAU. I cannot believe I forgot to mention him. Like, Honeycutt's the now. Gallagher's the future there in Chapel Hill. And then the last thing, and there's so many people to think, and I know I got emotional talking about LSU, like, oh, it's just so much fun because their fans care so much. The one big thing that stood out to me all year watching and covering that team, they're insanely talented. Jay Johnson cares so much about his guys, like so many really cool quotes. They don't bounce back after a 3-12 start in the SEC without like senior leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alex Milazzo, Hayden Travinsky, taking kind of the torch along from guys like Cade Bloso and Gavin Dugas, like with, Skeens and Tommy White and Dylan Cruz and all these superstars in LSU. Like, it's really cool to like really focus in and be like, they don't win shit without the old leadership in that clubhouse. And I think all 3 of us being in locker rooms for as long as we have, like, it's so easy to recognize that the teams that love each other the most win this time of year. And that's why LSU was able to get back to the point that they got to. Those were the 3 things that really stood out to me. Sorry, go ahead, Rose.
Yeah. I just wanted to say something to J.J. Edwards. Yeah, he's a hitting guy. I always, for some reason, thought he was the pitching guy. He's a hitting guy. Apologies to me. Next time I see him, I'll be sure. I want to talk a lot about pitching with him. I'm sure he's got a lot of great things to teach or talk about. Anyway, jokes aside, hitting guy, not pitching guy, J.J. Edwards is building something at Wofford. There's a lot to be proud of for them. Long Island, same thing. I think SEMO and Long Island are kind of in the same boat. They didn't make it out of the regional, but they have a lot to be proud of and a lot to build off of. I think Long Island is building something up in the Northeast. If they do things right, I think they really can take over the Northeast Conference. So, yeah, probably one of my favorite regionals as well. North Carolina, hey, they finally got out of their home regional. It's been a while. Now it's time for them to get back to Omaha.
One more thing that's impressive to me about Wofford is like they're one of those mid-major programs that lose all of their talent to Power 5 teams.
Yeah.
And it's like it's nothing against Wofford, right? Like they've built like Todd Interdonato, who's coaching now at Boston College, and J.J. Edwards built this Wofford program to be like a SoCon contender every year. And
wait, Interdonato built it. J.J. Edwards is continuing it.
Well, they did it together. They did it. I mean, J.J. Edwards has been there.
He's been there forever with him, right hand man.
Right, like they did it together, and he just took the reins because Interdonato got the ACC kind of money. But anyways, my point is like Wofford has lost so much talent to the transfer portal, and it's almost like these SoCon teams, like the Mercers, the Woffords, the Samfords that lose the SEC and ACC talent. They kind of take pride in it in a way, like, hey, come here, we will develop you. We're going to win a lot of games here. And I think that's how they're able to get these freak high school guys to come to schools in the SoCon. So this Wofford team would have been so much better if they would have got to keep, the Marshall who's at Clemson or
Dorigi went to
Dorigi
Iowa.
last year at Iowa. Like a lot of these guys were freaking studs.
Yeah.
But anyways,
before we move on, a little off topic here. If you're a head coach at one of these smaller school programs, for example, the SoCon, and you tell a kid, hey, come here, we'll develop you. If you want to transfer out for your junior year, maybe get more draft money, senior year, whatever, we're more than happy to help you do that. But give us 2 years to convince you to stay for those final 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know how those conversations actually happen. Like this is all new stuff that's developed over the last 3 years with the transfer portal. But I think there is an understanding that these coaches have, like, hey, he was a third-team All-American at Wofford. Like, we're probably not going to be able to afford him next year when I don't know, such and such school gives him $100,000 in NIL. Like, I think there's an understanding.
Hey, we'll help you keep advancing your career, whether it's at a bigger school, professional, whatever. But give us 2 years to convince you to stay for your final 1 or 2 years. If not, feel free to go. We're here to make you better and win a lot of baseball games. So I think you got to embrace that at that point. Embrace these guys going to a bigger program, knowing that you had hands-on development with them.
Right. All right, down to the Lexington Regional. Look, we can go quickly through this one. It was fun. It was really fun game one, right? When Western Michigan comes back from down 8-0 to Kentucky, who I picked to win the national championship. And, Illinois upsets Indiana State game one. You're like, okay, this could be a competitive regional. At the end of the day, Kentucky is deep. The other three teams were not deep as far as like pitching goes, especially. It was a fun regional. Like Kentucky fans, Big Blue Nation showed out, but nothing really like super notable here other than Indiana State. They were good. Like they lost 5-0 in game 4.
Hey,
not crazy, but
I still have my bet slip that I haven't cashed yet. It says Illinois Fighting Illini money line over Indiana State Sycamore, and it has Kansas State over Louisiana Tech money line. I just want to let everybody know that I have the ticket. It hasn't been cashed yet. I'll go tomorrow. But Indiana State wasn't as strong as last year. And when I told the last episode, postseason magnifies everything. All your holes, all your issues, all your strength, everything, it gets magnified in the postseason. And I think Indiana State just wasn't good enough like they were last year to make noise. They did come back to the regional final, but I just think Kentucky was that good. It just showed they were that good, and it was a relatively weak regional.
Yeah, it was a tough draw, though. I mean, I wouldn't say Indiana State wasn't good. Like they were a good team, like RPI number 10. But
were they the number 10?
It just kind of sucked. Like honestly, I think if you asked Indiana State, would you rather be the 2 seed in Lexington or the 4 seed at Greenville? They would have switched spots with Evansville in a heartbeat. Like it was just a tough draw, man.
Wake Forest and East Carolina. I think Evansville getting out of the regional is one of the craziest things to happen in college baseball.
That's true, but
on paper, that's one of the craziest things to happen. But I think it just goes to show how important it is to host your own regional. Yeah. That's what it comes down to,
for sure. But I have no other notes other than that. Like the notes that I have about that regional tie into the super regional with Oregon State. Yeah. I think Oregon State Kentucky super regional is like what it's all about, right? It is going to be exciting. It's going to be in Lexington. And dude, Oregon State, they showed me a ton. Like I mentioned it last week. When they're healthy, dude, they are freaking good. Like they are an SEC or an ACC program out west. And it sucks that it won't be in Corvallis because I thought the Corvallis crowd was awesome. When when they delayed the game against UC Irvine on Sunday, the crowd was pissed. They're like, we want to play in this. Like we will stand out here in the rain. It is not a big deal. But yeah, Beaver Nation, I'm glad I'm on the right side of Los Beavs. And I'm glad he gave you guys hell on Twitter with those memes. But yeah, like UC Irvine, great team. The biggest thing from that regional was the craziness in game 1, UC Irvine, Nicholls State. When Nicholls State makes an unbelievable comeback, they hit a go-ahead homer in the 9th, and then UC Irvine still comes back and wins.
What was it, 8-1?
I think it was 10-1.
9-1. I think it was 8-1 or 9-1.
Yeah, and Nicholls State battled back and look,
took a 2-run lead in the 9th.
Yeah, they hit a go-ahead 3-run homer in the 9th, and then UC Irvine wins it in the bottom half. Man, that was exciting. I thought Tulane played well too. Like obviously they couldn't hit Aiden May, but dude, they made it. I don't know. It was a fun regional.
I will just say this before Jack goes. I will say I am mad about my Irvine pick. I've been a believer in this Oregon State team all year. I don't know why. I just was falling in love with trying to have fun taking teams that were 2, 3, 4 seeds, and I pick them. A betting man, like I said before, I would have taken Oregon State, but I should have taken them. They're the fun pick. They're the good team. The Oregon State we saw in Globe Life, that's what we should have expected. I mean, this team is really good. And I think, if you go on Kentucky Twitter, They are so pissed they have to face Oregon State.
Yeah.
They are so scared of Oregon State. I'm not saying the team. I'm just talking about the fan. Twitter, not real life. They are so scared of Oregon State, and for good reason.
I know why I didn't take Oregon State, and I'll keep this short and simple. I am living for being on the blunt end of Los Beefs. It's become my new favorite college baseball tradition. I took every mid-major, as you can see, pretty much all of my picks. And I took freaking Irvine because I wanted to be on the raw end of Los Beefs. There's nobody killing it more than he is. He's locked and loaded, and he's got 10 more in the arsenal. So guess what? I'm going to keep on doing it just because I think it's absolutely hilarious.
So are you hinting at something on Wednesday?
Oh, dude. Come on. Big Blue Nation. Let's ride. I want Los Beefs firing everything he's got at the Cats.
Yeah, so that one's definitely that's probably top 3 super regional for me, maybe number 1. But we'll move over to the next little super regional matchups. We'll talk about the Raleigh regional and the Athens regional. This one is shaping up to be probably my favorite super regional. I'm sorry. The Raleigh regional alone, look, I picked Bryant. I went on a limb. I was like, look, if there's a 4 seed that's going to win it, I think Bryant will. This is like the 5th straight year I've picked a 4 seed to win a regional, and they have not even come close to winning any games. Bryant got smacked around. But look, NC State was clearly the best team here out of these 4. And look, South Carolina, they had a good run that winner's bracket game, couldn't get the job done. NC State's bullpen was fantastic once again. Derek Smith is probably my favorite relief pitcher since Kevin Kopps. The guy just throws bowling balls up there. Look, South Carolina gets rid of Mark Kingston. They move on from him. He went to a super regional last year, loses in a regional this year. I don't know if that's the right decision. It seems like South Carolina fans wanted it to happen, but like that's a conversation for a different day. I personally would have kept him because now you're going to lose out on maybe some recruits, maybe Ethan Petrie transfers out. Who knows? Like this could be a 2 or 3 year long process. But look, I was impressed with James Madison. They were a pitch away on Friday in that exciting game against South Carolina. Really a strike away from winning that game. South Carolina, Cole Messina once again does it, ties the game up, 2-run homer in the 9th. They go on and win it in extras. Look, as a team, James Madison was a team that was one of the last 4 in. They played really well. I was super impressed with James Madison. I even caught myself rooting for them, like to win that regional. But NC State was the best team. This team is not a fluke. They've won 5 of the biggest weekend series in the ACC. You got to give NC State credit. Sorry, none of us picked them.
Yeah, I guess we'll let Jack finish this one because I know he wants to talk about the Cox. He loves talking about the Cox.
Gotta love cock. Duh. No, we had flops. We had flops in the ground in Raleigh as well. And I know that this pick, to me, coming off of the heels of Hoover, like the hottest hitter in the country, Cole Messina, continue to do just that, man. And they've got so many fun pieces. They had a lot of guys step up. SQ, who threw against JMU on Saturday in that loss and 2-0, was great. Garrett Gainey was really good against NC State. Gave up the 3 long balls. That was the only runs that State scored against them on Saturday night. We were in person for that one. There's so many things that I want to talk about. And I think the conversation about Mark Kingston is for another day as well, because I kind of side with you, Ben. Like I think that these expectations, right? And this was a team that played really good baseball this year. So it was a little bit surprising to me. When you look at JMU, I felt like Donovan Burke, who threw like 160 plus pitches in the span of 48 hours for JMU, a 5th-year guy going back for his 6th year. He was fist pumping in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning because he truthfully thought he was done. Then he gets in the bullpen. The adrenaline takes over. They let the 5th-year guy who's been on campus for all 5 years, let him back at it. That was such a cool moment. That was the first shutout of the year for James Madison.
I know. When they said that, I was like, what?
Regional. Unbelievable stuff. Michael Mancini, Guys hit 4 home runs on Sunday in elimination games. He counted for all 2 runs in the win against South Carolina. Like, JMU was a great story, right? Hand up. Like, to me, we thought the Fun Belt deserved a lot of teams in, a lot of question marks on whether they should have. Not only did they exceed expectations, but to me, like, they proved they belong. So that was a really fun storyline. I feel like I could talk about the Gamecocks forever. This boils down to NC State's really good.
Yeah.
NC State has enough pitching to win this thing, whether it be Heifel, Cooper Consiglio, Jacob Duden, Ryan Marone, another freshman lefty. But I want to talk about Ben's guy. Derek Smith got literally invited to go pitch for Team USA after his outing against South Carolina on Saturday night. Team USA rolled it and invited him right after the postgame meeting. And I watched it all happen. I was like, well, that was like a massive moment in this kid's life. Like, how about a 30-minute span for Derek Smith? So they've got all the pieces in the world. You take that pitching staff with the names that we just rattled off and go to Georgia, like that one is going to be so much fun next week. When you look at guys like Garrett Pennington, who transferred from Wichita State, he had 2 homers in that South Carolina game. Like, we're going to have some serious firepower in Athens next weekend.
Dude, and they have the leadership too, man. Like Alec Makarevich transfers from East Carolina, grad student, right? He's played in so many postseason games. He's done it. He's done it all. You got possibly the best catcher in the nation, not named Cole Messina, and Jacob Cozart too. This team is talented. It is, I think they're very dangerous. But then they have to go to Athens, and look, the Athens regional. Other than like probably a 15-minute span with Georgia Tech, Georgia was winning that regional the whole time. Actually, you know what? Army. I forgot. I forgot about Army. Army on Friday did scare the lights out of Georgia. But look, this Georgia team, they just kept rolling out arms. And look, they were down 5-0 or 5-1 to Georgia Tech in that regional final game. And Georgia Tech could just they could not add more runs. Every time they had runners in scoring position, they could not produce. And I credit Georgia's pitching staff for that. Wes Johnson, like, he's got a deep bullpen, a lot of arms. There was some key notes I have here in the Athens regional. There were teams that just decided not to pitch to Charlie Condon after he hit that homer first at bat against Army or second at bat against Army. They would just walk him. They run on first, 1 out. We'll just put him on first. But it was really like the Corey Collins of the world step up, get a big hit. Trey Phelps, Slade Alford, Trey Phelps, like those guys all stepped up, and like that's what they're going to have to do to get Charlie Condon more at bats. UNC Wilmington, after destroying Georgia Tech game 1, kind of laid an egg. I was sad, upset. I
think Georgia took all the wind out of their sails Saturday night. They were like, all right, we just beat Georgia Tech ass. We're ready. And then you roll in Georgia like, oh, maybe not. Maybe not. And then, then an ACC team's always going to beat you on depth 99% of the time.
Yep.
Game 3, UNC Wilmington, Georgia Tech just had them on depth. Solely on depth, they out-talented them.
Yeah. I want to give props to the Athens faithful. The Georgia fans were out. Stadium was packed. The frat house in right field, I forget what they call it, greenhouse or green, whatever it's called.
Cuzzo. Well,
it was like Condon's kudzu kegs or something like that.
Kudzu Hill. It's basically just full of kudzu ivy or whatever up there.
Yeah, dude, the place was rocking. It was electric. It's going to set up for a very, very fun super regional. NC State at Georgia. I mean, battle of just 2 programs that, like, they want it. Like, they want to win a national championship. That neither one of them have. Georgia could have won it in 2008. They lose to Fresno State. Everybody thought that was a gimme, College World Series for them. NC State, we remember what happened in 2021. Look, I'm telling you, both of these fan bases want a national championship in baseball to solidify, like, at least a great program. But anyways, that'll be a lot of fun. We'll move over to the Clemson Regional. Clemson's freaking good, guys. They just are relentless. Absolutely. I mean, like, Cinderella is possibly the number 1 overall pick next year. Freak athlete, handles the bat well. He's a high leverage, high momentum guy. Look, shout out to our High Point guys. I think they stole the show, but Clemson just was unbelievable for all 27 innings. And that's what it was.
Hey, hand up, worst pick on this board. I think this pick right here is the worst pick on the board. I will never trust Vanderbilt in the postseason again. They looked horrific. They looked absolutely horrific in Clemson.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they lose, 13-3 game one to Coastal, and then
their doors blown off against Coastal, and then they get embarrassed by High Point, to be honest.
They were up 7-1 or 7-0.
Yeah, Corbin's got work to do. Corbin's got work to do to turn that program around. I think they'll be fine, but horrific showing, just absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah, I think I can't believe we went this long without having this conversation. The first three things, man, shout out to Joey Hammond at High Point. This is far, far from over. Not only did they go down, they had Clemson beat on Friday night. Like they had them beat. Shout out to Clemson. To me, like, yeah, for me, it was 27 innings, but not really. Like Clemson's just a team that finds a way to win, right? Whether it be a hidden ball trick, clutch hitting, clutch pitching out of the back end, like they just find a way to win. So shout out to those guys. To me, High Point showed that not only did they belong, but like they can really play at that level. And it's not just Gus Hughes on the Friday night start. They're a really good ball club. That Echezarreta walk-off against Vandy was electric as hell.
How awesome is it to get to eliminate Vandy like that? I think that's super sweet.
For your first NCAA tournament victory,
to eliminate the Commodores.
Man, are you kidding me? And then they don't roll over, and they almost beat a really good Coastal Carolina team. Like Coastal was playing their best ball of date. I thought Coastal had Clemson beat. It was, again, another one of those situations where they find a way to win. Coastal bounces back. Really good pitching out of a guy like Andrew Bowers, who hadn't thrown a ton this year. But they've got freshmen between Bowers and Cam Fluke and Bodine going to play for Team USA. Like, they've got a really bright future in Conway. So shout out to the legend that is Gary Gilmore, a Hall of Famer. To think that one guy hasn't had more of an impact on the program as a player, now as a coach, will be an administrator. Like, shout out to Gilly, just an absolute goat and legend. Because it was a lot of fun to watch them really like spark some fire into that regional. But kind of let's go back to what you mentioned, Dimitri. We've almost gone in a full hour and 15. The SEC laid an egg this week, boys. At the deepest and the most teams that have ever gotten into the tournament with 11. And the SEC went out and like kind of got their teeth kicked into some places, right? I know we didn't really touch on it much in that Arkansas series, but this was kind of a common theme. And I'm curious kind of y'all's thoughts. Like, I know there are a lot of mid-major fans that were always on us talking about it in the first 15, 20 minutes of our shows, but like it's because they were really, really damn good. And then this first week was a little bit of a kick in the teeth for the SEC.
Yeah, it was like the SEC was one way or the other. Like you had teams like A&M and Kentucky, Tennessee, that handled business and just took care of business, advanced. Georgia too, and then you had like Vanderbilt, Alabama, like South Carolina didn't play great. There were some teams down there that played really bad. So I don't know. Maybe it was just because there was so many teams, 11 teams in it, like they all can't win. But yeah, there was a few spots where they laid an egg. Vanderbilt and Alabama really stick out to me.
Yeah.
But
hey,
look,
I just want to say one thing. Obviously, big shout out to Gary Gilmore.
Yeah.
I think that guy put Coastal on the map more than they could have even imagined in their wildest dream when they hired him. I think he had a big impact on what the Sun Belt is today. I mean, when Coastal was joining the Sun Belt, like, all right, the Sun Belt had my attention now. It was already a strong league. Now it really is becoming a strong league. And I think Gary Gilmore played an impact on that. I would just say shout out to the Sun Belt. 4 teams in the tournament, 4 teams in regional final. Louisiana Coastal,
Southern Miss,
and James Madison.
James Madison, yeah.
So really good regional. Clemson, shout out Eric Backett, getting them to super. I think that was awesome. That clip of him in the right field porch, the cheap seats, I think they call it. I think that just showed you the kind of person Eric Backett, and that just shows you what it means when some of these programs, when you see Kendall Rogers tweet, I think they're going to go get a big fish. Eric Backett was a big fish.
Well, I want to say, like, that was my point I was going to bring up. Like, I want to give all the credit in the world to Clemson and Florida State for going and getting their guys, right? Like, to replace, like, nobody really thought that the two, Mike Martin Jr. and Monty Lee were on the hot seat. really. I mean, like they had disappointing years, but it's like, all right, like they can turn it around. When those two guys get fired, and it was like, oh, they must have a reason why. Well, of course, we're gonna go get Link Jarrett from Notre Dame, and we're gonna go get Eric Bakich from Michigan. We're gonna make some splash hires that we think can leave a legacy on our program and return us to top end talent. Bakich did it last year. It took Link Jarrett one more year, probably because of injuries. But look, like Clemson and Florida State are not going anywhere for the next 15 years. They'll continue to host regionals, continue to be national championship contenders. And like, look, none of us picked Clemson to win this regional. We joked about it last week that we have not gotten Clemson right all year. When we think they're going to win, they lose. When we think they're going to lose, they win. When we think the game's going to go over, it goes under. When we think the game's going to go under, it goes over. I still just cannot figure this Clemson team out. But what I do know is they're going to win the national championship until somebody eliminates them. Like even if they're down 10 runs in the 8th inning, I'm like, Clemson will find a way to win. Like that's how my mindset is now. I've seen it happen way too much. Like 30 come from behind wins this year. It is ridiculous what these guys do.
I think the final 9 outs at Doug Kingsmore Stadium are becoming some of the toughest 9 outs to get.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Like I love, when you watch regional, you're watching some of these games. East Carolina, for example, up until this year, when you're watching East Carolina, the 8th and 9th inning, the final 6 out at in the jungle at Clark LeClaire, you're like, it's not over. They're down by 1. They're going to win this game. Like when you look around the country at places, the final 9, 6, 3 out are the toughest to get. Doug Kingsmore Stadium is becoming one of them. Clemson is not out of it. Those are some of the hardest outs to get in the country, I think.
Yeah. But they're matched up here with the Stillwater regional winner, the Florida Gators. And it was almost like we predicted it without predicting it. We were like, dude, if they let them in this tournament, they're probably going to win the whole thing. And they got into the tournament, and we were like, dude, there's just no way, right? Like, no way Florida wins this regional. Oklahoma State is a wagon right now. Nebraska is playing the best baseball. And they just go in there, and, like, sure, they got smacked around in that winner's bracket game on Saturday. But it's that Florida it's the SEC depth, the Florida depth that Sully had where, he gets 8 innings out of Brandon Neely and 120 pitches. What a performance. And then, like, they just keep running guys out there 95, 96 miles an hour. I think Oklahoma State was tight and tense yesterday in that winner-take-all game. They weren't taking the same swings we saw them taking all year. But, dude, for me, you guys let Florida in the tournament. They have the best, I don't want to say the best player left because Condon's still in it. There's a few other guys, but you got a bona fide, maybe number 1 overall pick in Jack Caglione on your team. Like, anything's possible. They started over. They were 0-0 going into this tournament. And Sully does it again, brings the team to a super regional. I think they're going to be heavy underdogs against Clemson. The value is with Florida, but again, it doesn't matter what we take in that super regional. The opposite's going to happen.
Yeah.
These are 2 teams we've been wrong about all year. Yeah. So who knows?
Hey, this regional, I picked Oklahoma State. Jack did well. But for me, picking Oklahoma State, I knew it. Oklahoma State in home regional is the biggest choke. It's on the paintings on the wall every time. Oklahoma State choke their home regional year in and year out. So I don't know if this is a bad thing for Josh Holiday because he gets them regional. They're hosting all the time, but they can't get out of them. So it's like, how selfish can you get, or how greedy can you get? So,
dude, not only did I think they were going to win the regional after Saturday's game, I was like, Oklahoma State's going to win the College World Series. Like after Saturday's elimination game,
so good.
They looked unbelievable. And I forget his first name, but last name, Brian Holiday, maybe. There was like a 120-pitch complete game against Florida. Was lights out. Looked like Tim Lincecum up there.
You got your whole staff ahead of you for
dude. And like Oklahoma State looks the part. Everybody they have is 6'5", 220. Like just lean. Like it was like, oh, they're going to win the College World Series this year. They're legit. Man, Florida. Credit to Florida. Also, I want to say credit to myself. because I posted a tweet Saturday that might have it might be leading the Florida, what's it called? The championship DVD, because I eliminated Florida on the 11.7 account on accident. Total 100% accident. I tweeted out, well, Jack Caglione's college story has come to an end with his 30th home run this season in his final at bat. Tip of the cap to one of the best college baseball players of our generation. I tweeted that, and within less than a minute,
I
it had
called it.
6 quote tweets, 13 comments, and 106 likes. Like that fast. And I was like, what did I just do? Total brain fart that they were, in fact, not eliminated. They were just in the losers bracket. And since then, they're 3-0. And I can just see it now. This tweet, and maybe it's narcissistic of me to think, but Florida's going to win the whole College World Series now. And it's going to be because of that tweet. Because I'm such an idiot and was just not, I was brain dead
You
at
should
this
get a
time.
ring. You should get a ring, dude.
I should get a ring. If Florida wins it all, I should get a ring. And this tweet should be framed.
I like it. You should
Right.
get a ring. And then in the same boat, I don't know if I had a similar brain fart. I'll have to go back and listen. I swear I picked Oregon in the Santa Barbara Regional. I had them as the best 3 seed on the board. So I don't know what I messed up there. But when
You went Oregon, and then you said, you know what, I'm going Santa Barbara.
I said Santa Barbara is 25-0 at home, and I think you switched.
Oh, see, there's another brain fart. Why would I have the best 3 seed on the board and then having them lose?
I mean, I had the best 3 seed. I'll show you. I'll scroll down a little bit more.
Yeah, because it was such an awesome regional. I'll tell you this much. Yeah, I had Oregon as my best 3 seed on the board. They're going to win it all. They use pencil bats. Jacob Walsh is awesome. He hits Mammo homers. I'm going to keep this regional super short because I know people are probably done listening. But seriously, guys, that San Diego Oregon game was the best costume matchup in the history of the sport.
It was amazing.
Set the tone for the rest.
Gorgeous. Hey, one thing about Florida before guys, there was a smile on Sully's face, and it was it's a scary smile. When after that they won the regional, he had this smile on his face. I've never seen Sully grinning like this. I have never seen Sully grinning.
It was like when
Carson Finvold complete game out of the bullpen. Sully didn't have a smile like this. Like
it was kind of like, you know, those old elementary school teachers that, like, when they smiled, it meant like you're in trouble.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
Sully knows. Sully knows. He was like, let me get out of this regional. I'm going to piss a lot of you guys off. So that's all I want to say about that. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, Jack, uniform matchup, gorgeous. San Diego and Oregon, gorgeous.
Yeah, Santa Barbara regional was fun. It was probably the most fun late night regional out of all of them. Oregon just pitched their tails off, man. I could not emphasize this enough. Oregon had probably 4 clutch hits in the weekend, and they had 3 guys just absolutely deal on the mound. So Santa Barbara, great story. Undefeated at home going into the regional. Kind of got their hearts ripped out in a way, where they felt like those games were winnable. But like even San Diego showed a lot against Oregon, and it was a fun regional. Fresno State made things interesting. But
I want to say one thing. Preseason, I said this about Oregon. A year ago, they had a great year. They made the postseason with all freshmen in their bullpen. I think you're going to see the results of that. And it's very possible Oregon season will be ending in College Station next weekend. But if it's not, it's because of how much experience that pitching staff has now. I mean, you saw what they did. Postseason magnifies everything. What you're good at, what you're not good at, your hole and your strength. I think Oregon's pitching staff is going to play a big role in their road to Omaha.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm just saying watch out. Oregon can pitch you with anybody.
All right, last regional here, College Station regional, and then we'll wrap it up. Look, that Texas versus Texas A&M game, extra innings. Texas had so many chances to win, and we kind of previewed it on Club Bromaha on Friday. A&M did not look great against Grambling State. I know they won 8-0, but it was because of a 7-run second inning. They coasted, and we were like, hey, the winner of this Louisiana-Texas game, they could they can make this regional very interesting. But, I mean, 2 throwing errors from Jalen Flores in the 8th provides Texas with a run to tie it. and then that dribbler down the third baseline that hits third base, bases loaded, 2 outs. All you do is field it and touch the base. A&M ends up winning. Texas was dead the next day. Louisiana, wins with ease, 6-1 or 7-1, and then Louisiana was just out of gas. They had nothing left.
That pimp job home run from Louisiana's catcher.
Yeah, that was
Torres?
awesome too.
Was it his name Torres?
I think so.
Do you remember that play he made earlier this year at catcher? He dove for a ball, like a bunt pop up or something. Dove, popped out of his glove and grabbed it with bare hand. I think you tweeted that clip actually.
Yeah, no, it was.
I'm a big fan of that guy. Good player, really good player.
Yep. I think A&M versus Oregon is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oregon, they're frisky, man. Like, they're frisky. They're not going to be intimidated in College Station. I'll probably end up still picking the Aggies because I think with their depth and just the amount of guys that they can roll out, plus they got the best closer in the nation. But it's going to – I think this is a very, very tricky spot if you're A&M. Like, how do you game plan for an Oregon team that's coming in with nothing to lose, that played in the Super Regional last year and got their hearts ripped out against Oral Roberts? So there you guys have it. 16 regional recaps. We'll be back later this week, either tomorrow or Thursday, whatever our schedules work out. We'll preview the Super Regionals, make our picks, and all that fun stuff. But just incredible from top to bottom. Shout out to Squeeze Play. That was must-see TV. I can only hope that one day we get Squeeze Play like every Friday night, or we're just bouncing around from game to game. It was what everybody wanted, and I'm sure they set records for viewership. Like, I'm almost certain.
Guy, is there a better weekend of sport than regional weekend?
Dude, I don't think so. It's so much better than March Madness. It's so much better than any kind of NFL, MLB, NHL playoffs. I don't care. Like, this is the most entertaining from top to bottom. Never a dull moment. So, do you guys have any closing thoughts on the show before we head out?
Nope. What a weekend.
What a weekend. Well, we'll see
I
you guys
think we
later
tied
this
the
week.
record for walk-offs in regional weekend or in a day, whatever, like 12 walk-offs Friday.
Friday, yeah. 6
It was
walk-off.
nuts. 6. But
Unbelievable.
anyways, y'all take care, and we'll be back later.